Hey everybody, it's Mitch, and welcome to my next video. Today we have got another Dungeons and Dragons related video for you, and today it's one where we're going to be comparing GURPS 4th edition to Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. First off, let's talk about my history with these games. So D&D 5e I played for about a year, two different campaigns, each one about, I guess not quite 6 months, but probably closer to 5. This was, a semester at school in college, not too long ago. So I did a couple of those with two different DMs. So I got a little experience with 5e. I've done a couple of like one-shot type things with it as well. So I know it a bit. Now for GURPS, I've played it probably a little longer, actually. I think I played it for, well, I guess similar length maybe. I guess about a year-ish, all with the same DM. But I did really get along with this DM, and I learned a lot about the game. I'd say I know it fairly well because of that. So that's my history with them. Now for trying to now for what these games are. So we're going to talk about the history a bit with it. Then after that, we'll start comparing them more deeply. But the history, well, Dungeons and Dragons on their 5th edition, most of my experiences with 3.5, so I'm a little bit more familiar with 5e, which 3.5 is an earlier version of Dungeons and Dragons. That's actually largely similar to 5e. They kind of tried to go back to similar to 3.5 system with 5e, although they slimmed it down a lot. And then GURPS. GURPS, I don't know the history that well, but I do know that it is a generic role-playing system. It's actually sort of what it stands for, generic universal role-playing system. Basically the difference between these two is quite massive, actually. So GURPS is a system that uses a hex battle grid, whereas Dungeons and Dragons 5e uses a square battle grid. On top of that, D&D 5e uses a D20 system, whereas GURPS uses a 3d6 system. Not only that, but low rolls are good in GURPS because you're trying to roll under your score, because that means you pass. Rolling over your score means you fail. Whereas in D&D 3.5, D&D 5e, you add your modifier to a D20 roll and then see how that compares to your opponent's score, and to see how well you did. So the systems are a bit different, quite a bit different in a lot of ways. 5e has a lot of lore behind it, and on top of that, the game is very much built for a medieval fantasy type world, whereas GURPS doesn't really have a lot of lore to it. It's one where you kind of make up the lore for yourself. A good GM is going to create that lore themselves, which I had a really good GM. Shout out to Kevin, you did a great job there. A good GM will create the lore and like make it feel like the game has lore, even though GURPS itself like doesn't have any lore, by design actually, which is kind of cool. It's designed to fit any world you want, so that it can kind of have its own lore. And you're not bound by the system. The system is basically just a set of tools in order to allow you to kind of do whatever you want, and it's within what the GM allows, and the GM can like pick and choose how they want to play the game, like what rules they're going to use, and the game's designed to allow that and handle that, which is amazing. That's by far one of the best things about GURPS, is its ability to let the GM really control the world and make the world exactly how they want, and let the players make their characters exactly how they want. and they're not bound by classes and what classes get and all that. They can really customize to their heart's content. Whereas 5e, it's very class-based, similar to D&D 3.5, which is what I'm more familiar with. But because of that, you're really limited on what you can create as a character. There's not a lot of customization options for 5e, unfortunately. There's some, like there's a decent amount, but compared to like GURPS or 3.5, which is what I'm used to. Sorry, this video is not about 3.5, but that's just where my experience is. If you've seen like all my, like half my videos are about 3.5, but more than that actually. Yeah, anyways, yeah, so 5e, it just doesn't have as much customization. But because of that, it's a lot easier to learn. It's a lot easier to play. It's much more beginner friendly. Although GURPS isn't bad with that either. Although it is a little bit rough to learn. But I had a good GM, so I learned it fairly quick and it wasn't too bad. It really, really depends on your GM on how fast you learn any system. Yeah, because they're gonna help a lot. Some are much better at working with new players than others. Let's be real here. So yeah, but 5e is in general a better system for newer players, whereas GURPS has a lot more customization. Like it has a ton. It can work for any system, not just medieval fantasy. 5e would probably be a little bit better of a system for a medieval fantasy game. Dungeons and Dragons is just designed for medieval fantasy, whereas GURPS can handle it. It can handle anything, but it's not so much designed for medieval fantasy. So you can, although it is great for like blending medieval fantasy with like, the modern world and sci-fi and everything. So there are ways to make that work in GURPS, which is absolutely insane, and it can be really cool. I haven't seen it myself, but yeah, I actually almost played a second game, but that one ended up getting canceled last second, but with a different DM of GURPS. But it is what it is. But yeah, GURPS, great system. 5e, good system as well. Personally, I prefer GURPS. That's just me. But yeah, I like them both. Anyways, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I love hearing from you guys. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like. Maybe subscribe to the channel for more Dungeons & Dragons related content. I mostly do D&D 3.5 stuff. This was a little bit of an outside the box one. Anyways, ring that notification bell so you never miss out on a video. And anyway, and as always, I'm Mitch, and I'll be seeing you.